Hello and welcome into this edition of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Minutecast. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. And so when you're using your podcatcher of choice, make sure and hit that follow or subscribe button. That way you will know when the new podcasts are available. This podcast is also available on Bucs Report. Check them out online, bucsreport.com. And as always, you can find this video cast on YouTube, and the audio form is available wherever you get your audio podcasts. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. So in this Friday edition, there is not a lot to report. We are getting ready for the season finale, the preseason finale, as we are making our way towards the regular season as your Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Indianapolis Colts. And when you look at it on paper, it doesn't appear like there is a lot at stake. And for the established guys on the team, I would say that's true. For Tom Brady, there's not a lot at stake other than getting in some reps. You take a look at Godwin and Evans and Fournette and whoever ends up making it out there. According to Todd Bowles, every healthy Buck will be out there, so maybe not Godwin. But, all the healthy Bucks that are available will play because, like I talked about in yesterday's show, they want to see what they have in the tank. They saw what they had with Trask. They saw what they had with Gabbert. Now the rubber meets the road. What do they have with the starting team? What do they have with Tom Brady and all his weaponry that's out there? I'm a bit worried. I got to say that, Tom Brady's out there and there is the risk of injury. I could think of no worse outcome than for Tom Brady to get injured in a game that really means not a lot except for some fringe players. So here's me keeping my fingers crossed and knocking on wood and whatever else, things that you want to do to hope that Tom Brady and some of the starters, ostensibly all the starters out there, will have health and they will not get injured. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are getting ready for their preseason finale as they take on Indy. Todd Bowles says that every player on the Bucs roster who is healthy will play in Saturday's game. This is a bit of a recap of the week. Bowles on deciding to play all healthy starters versus the Colts. We got to get together as a staff and, we made some decisions and who's going to play out there. And it was the consensus of the coaching staff that we need to see what we have in the tank out there. And that is what they're going to do. They are going to see what players are ready for prime time. Spytek and his crew, they want to see if they need to bring anyone else in or who is going to be on the starting roster. So this was a report in SB Nation, and they were talking about players to watch for in preseason week 3, Bucs at Colts. And one of them, Tom Brady. Yes, of course, Brady has to be on this list because he has been the talk of camp. After an 11-day hiatus from the team, Brady returned to practice on Monday and will be starting the game in Indy. All eyes will be on him and how he gels with his receivers, as well as the reshaped offensive line that includes 2 inexperienced players in center Robert Hainsey and guard Luke Gadecki. And that center position is the one to me that is the most worrisome. It was supposed to be Jensen out there, and everything was kind of working together as this dream team for Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, like a lot of other quarterbacks, they rely a lot and they expect a lot from their center. So to have Robert Hainsey out there, and if I was listening to Spytek, I was listening to Bowles, and they were saying that, nope, Hainsey's fine. So I'm going to believe him. And I'm going to, say, hey, I think, if they say he's okay, he's okay. The stat sheet doesn't really matter with a guy like Brady, but it will be nice to see him in action for the first time since the 21-22 season ended, especially after the crazy offseason he had. And, what are we talking about there? Of course, the retirement, the unretirement, talking about him. There was the whole incident with the Dolphins. There was the whole thing, with him missing some preseason games and some practice. So, it is going to be good to see Tom Brady out there and see what he has. Another player to look out for is Julio Jones. Just as much as Brady needs to gel with his receivers, a player like Jones will benefit from gelling with his new quarterback. One of the biggest downsides to having Brady absent for a few practices was that he was missing valuable reps with players like Julio Jones, Jones had his issues with injuries over the past few seasons, but now looks finally healthy, and Bucs fans will get their look at Jones in action and in a Bucs uniform on Saturday night. And Julio Jones was one of the acquisitions that was made. And, like they talked about, it would have been advantageous for Tom Brady to get those reps in with someone like Julio Jones. But, Tom Brady is used to playing with a lot of different players. Julio Jones is used to playing with a lot of different players, different quarterbacks. So hopefully the learning curve isn't too great. The other guy, the outlier, Scotty Miller, and I'm really pulling for Scotty Miller. I hope he finds a spot on this team. I know a lot of other fans out there aren't as crazy about Scotty Miller, but I like him. I like his work ethic. I like his speed. So I'm hoping for Scotty Miller on the team. And what could be the last game as a Buccaneer, that could very well be Miller's final chance to show he belongs on the roster, because right now he is firmly on the bubble. It's a shame because it's not all Miller's fault. A lot of it is the nature of the beast. And this is the price to pay to have a good depth at receiver that Tampa Bay does. Miller has talent and could fill in a nice role on a team, but is that team the Buccaneers? Tyler Johnson has seemingly locked down the 5th receiver spot with a stellar camp in preseason, and Jalen Darden is only entering year 2. I'm still kind of on the fence on Jalen Darden, to be honest with you. I know he's shown improvement, but is he a better option? I'm not so sure. So Miller could very well be the odd man out unless he makes some big plays versus the Colts. And that's one of the things that Spy Tech was talking about too, is he was saying that, this is a lot of these players' final chance to work on their resume. If you're not getting a job on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, do you have a future in the NFL, period? And, as for a guy like Scotty Miller, you'd like to think there is. He has quite an endorsement from Brady out there. So you'd like to think that he has a spot on this team. So in other news, this was also a story in Bucs Wire. They were talking about Sean Murphy-Bunting, and he's looking for bouncing back in 2022. And the corner position was one of those positions that had some issues last season with injury. And, we're hoping for guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting to come back and help solidify that position. If you think of all the different corners that went through there, D. Delaney and, Sherman and all these different guys that just kind of rotated through there. Heading into the 2021 NFL season, at Tampa Bay Buccaneers corner Sean Murphy-Bunting was coming off an impressive showing during the Bucs Super Bowl run and was primed for a breakout season. Instead, a broken arm suffered early in week 1 stunted Murphy-Bunting's plan for a big year. The former second-round pick out of Central Michigan never quite found his form after returning from the injury and struggled with consistency through the rest of the season. And now that he's back to full strength, Murphy-Bunting spoke with the media Thursday about his faith and family helped him through last year's challenges, and he's preparing for his role in the defense this season. And, we talked about it, and I remember Murphy-Bunting kind of making his way up through the ranks. And, I'm hoping that things are going to be all right. And he's a young guy, and he is a really good job does a good job at his position. So I think the arrow is pointing up for him. And then in one final story here on Scotty Miller and talking about him being on the bubble, it talks about, it seems like just yesterday, that Scotty Miller is making one of the most iconic plays. And then what happened, he just never seemed to find his role on the team. A little over a year later, Miller finds himself in a tight battle for a roster spot as the Bucs prepare for the 2022 season. Miller has been battling with familiar faces like Tyler Johnson and Jalen Darden, as well as standout rookies like Devin Tompkins, Stearns, and Geiger, all of whom have had impressive throughout the training camp and the preseason. After Thursday's practice, Miller talked about his approach to the position battle, as well as the development of second-year quarterback Kyle Trask. And, there is a lot of guys that need to prove themselves. And, Kyle Trask, is he the heir apparent to Tom Brady? I guess it remains to be seen. I know that he hasn't had a lot of reps out there, to kind of fully gauge on what kind of quarterback he's going to be. I think in sample sizes, he's shown some strengths and also some weaknesses. If it was, knee-jerk reaction, say something happened to Tom Brady, would it be Trask out there? I don't really think that's the case. I think it would be Gabbard out there. So that fact alone shows that, I don't think that the Buccaneers have total faith in him. And I think going forward, that the Buccaneers, this is ostensibly the last season with Tom Brady at the helm. This is the make or break season for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers for some time, unless they can go out and get that big name quarterback in the offseason. Is Gabbert going to be the guy? I'm not so sure. I mean, if we just rewind the tape in time a little bit and take a look when Brady was retired, this team was up in arms at who the starting QB is going to be. And then, Tom Brady rode in on his horse and said, hey, guys, everything's going to be all right. I'm going to have the reins for at least one more season here. Okay, so we got that one more season. So the Bucs need to do their level best to make a solid push to win a Super Bowl. I mean, they have to do it because, Brady came back to try to win another Super Bowl. Make no mistake about it. His competitive nature is why he came back. He's like, I am not going to go out on a low note. I'm coming back to this team and I'm going to win. I'm going to come and do it. I'm going to win another Super Bowl for this team. Is he going to do it? I guess that remains to be seen. There's a lot of moving pieces. A lot of things have changed since the beginning of the season. We talk about the injuries to Jensen and what injuries lie ahead. That is the concerning part. Hopefully that Jason Light and his crew did enough. And, the Buccaneers are well prepared for whatever adversity is thrown their way. But it's going to get real on Saturday. As we see with the starters out there, what do they have in the tank? Is this team ready to go? Because let's face it, and I know I don't want to read too much into it, but the Bucs haven't won a preseason game yet. Can they, in fact, tie down and get that last preseason win before, we head into the regular season? I would sure like to hope, think that is going to be the case. I mean, I'm not going to push the panic button if the Bucs don't win, but, it is kind of a troubling sign if they can't muster up and put together some sort of production here anyway. All right, this has been the Bucs Daily Podcast. Once again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a daily podcast. I'll take it on Monday through Friday, and then there will be hosts that take over this show over the weekend. But let's push for a big game from Tom Brady and the Bucs. I'll recap the whole game for you on Monday, but let's hope for some bigger things from this Buccaneers team, as this is their big push to win another Super Bowl. All right, have a great day, and I will talk to you guys again next time.